Welcome, fellow human-type thingy beings, to the Doom Report. This is a show that explores the multifaceted aspects of global collapse, and I am your exhausted and exasperated host, Nicholas Don Smith. We continue our exploration of SARS-CoV-2 right now. Roll it!
1, 2, COVID's coming for you. 3, 4, don't go out your door. 5, 6, check the statistics. 7, 8, better vaccinate. 9, 10, never breathe again.
And we are back. We will be primarily focusing on the silent, creeping horror of long COVID. It's mean, it's nasty, and it hates everything to do with Christmas. Watch this helpful commercial to learn more about long COVID.
If you have ever had COVID or expect to contract it in the future, consult your physician about the possibility of long COVID. Long COVID is a condition marked by the continuation of COVID-19 symptoms or the emergence of new ones because fuck you! Long COVID has been shown to affect the very young and old alike, and symptoms can appear even after a mild case of SARS-CoV-2, sometimes weeks or months later, because we live in a reality that is as cruel as it is absurd. Symptoms include, but not limited to, fatigue, headache, shortness of breath, chest pain or discomfort, cough, persistent loss of smell and or taste, joint pain, muscle aches, and pain weakness, overwhelming urge to start a tone-deaf true crime podcast, sore throat, memory loss, brain fog.
Hello? Where am I?
Debilitating existential dread and an all-consuming urge to place elder signs everywhere. Dizziness, low-grade and or intermittent fever, rapid or irregular heartbeat, anxiety, depression, PTSD, insomnia, earache, hearing loss, tinnitus, rashes, diarrhea, nausea, and or abdominal pain, diminished appetite, and hair loss. Oh, and word on the street, it can impair your sexual functions, so that's fun. Long COVID may lead to a potential loss of employment, insurance, resources, and anything resembling self-reliance or a normal life. Ask your physician if long COVID is right for you.
Now that sounds like a grab bag of pain wrapped in the gray shroud of sorrow, seasoned with spicy agony, deep fried in the dark ichor of suffering, and sprinkled liberally with despair, and finally washed down with a cold goblet of distilled torment.
Isn't that just like every morning for you?
You don't know me! How dare you, sir! I bite my thumb at thee!
I mean, to be fair, you looked pretty rough an hour ago when I yanked you out of Amerah's car from the pile of White Claw cans you were buried in.
Oh, so we're comparing my poor life choices with debilitating disease we know next to nothing about? Nice.
Nick, you know what else is classified as a disease? As a disease, Nick?
God damn it. Can we move on, please? Good. Well, now that we know the bare-bone basics of long COVID, thanks to that informative commercial, let's take a brief look at its origins. According to this helpful article from the National Library of Medicine back in the turbulent days of 2020, that we as a global collective are in no way still reeling from the effects of, some sufferers of COVID-19 were noticing that they had lingering symptoms beyond the World Health Organization's reported time frame of roughly 2 weeks for mild cases and 3 to 6 weeks for patients who endured a severe bout. The article continues to explain that these individuals with persistent symptoms started to find each other via social media as early as March 2020 to compare notes. It is from these patients that we get the term long COVID, shortened from long haul COVID. In March of that year, WeAreBodyPolitic.com created a COVID-19 support group. By April of 2020, local newspapers started publishing articles about first-person accounts of long COVID sufferers, drawing from resources from the long COVID Facebook page founded by British copywriter Claire Hasty and WeAreBodyPolitic.com. On May 5th, 2020, Paul Garner, professor of infectious diseases at Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, had his account of enduring weeks of symptoms published by the British Medical Journal. 10 days later, Paul Garner's account had reached The Guardian. According to the National Library of Medicine article that I've been getting a lot of mileage out of this episode, by August 10th of 2020, The Guardian's feature on Garner had garnered over 1 million views. To quote, Garner's account traveled internationally, gathering a wider patient community around what he termed the COVID long tail. Garner reported patients took his account to medical appointments to provide evidence of the realness of their symptoms. Patient-made evidence in the form of one case study was important when no peer-reviewed articles had yet documented long-lasting symptoms. Non-hospitalized patients were at the point literally beyond the gaze of biomedical research, close quote. And also, quote, on 11th of May, an all-patient team published the first survey of prolonged symptoms, reporting over 50, including cognitive impairment/fatigue, chills, sweats, appetite loss, many of them cyclical. The chance of full recovery by day 50 after onset was less than 20%, close quote. So long story short, these early attempts to bring attention and legitimacy to the affliction that is long COVID snowballed into more news coverage, interviews, t-shirts, research papers, funding, hats, action figures, coffee mugs, keychains, animated series, prog metal concept albums, and our very own Amerah Ames' soon-to-be-released off Broadway musical, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark 2. Fuck it, let's add long COVID to the growing list of tragedies plaguing this production.
Nick, yeah, about that. The musical has been canceled indefinitely.
Well, that sucks. I'm sorry, buddy.
I appreciate it, but it's okay. Honestly, it's kind of a relief.
What happened exactly, if I may ask?
Kind of a freak thing. The entire cast and crew in the rehearsal space were obliterated when 2 old Soviet satellites from the 60s fell out of orbit onto their heads.
Now, that's horrible, but also a pretty fucking metal way to go. Wait, where were you?
Me? I was at Dr. John's putting googly eyes on all the sex toys. Got some new friends if you want to meet them.
Classic. Let's see, freak satellite accident is not on my Turn Off the Dark 2 catastrophe bingo card. I went with Chasm to Hell.
Oh man, I was close. I had Norfolk train derailment.
You both owe me $20. I accept smoked meats or baked goods.
What about my immortal soul?
What's that worth, Nick? Do I look like I need birdcage lining?
Jesus, that was harsh. Well, back to the topic at hand. What causes long COVID? How common is it? How many have it? How are we treating it? Will there ever be a cure? And why don't I have a sexy OnlyFans version of this show? To answer that last question, he says I don't. There are now 4 prevalent theories in the medical science community about what exactly causes long COVID, and some believe there is probably some overlap. To help understand these theories, let's first take a peek and a gander at this Wired article dated April 9th, 2023. Brace for a long-ass quote. What triggers long COVID for you may not be what sets it off for another. Perhaps your long COVID is caused by your immune system turning on you, attacking your body, a phenomenon called autoimmunity. So goes one theory. Or maybe it's that splinters of the virus are hanging around your body long after the initial infection, keeping your immune system's engine revved up to the point of exhaustion. Another theory is that SARS-CoV-2 causes long-lasting damage to certain organs or tissues. Maybe it's that a COVID infection reawakens latent viruses your body has encountered before, such as the Epstein-Barr virus, which causes mononucleosis. All these theories have some evidence to support them, and they may not be mutually exclusive. For some people, these things could be happening at the same time. The idea that long COVID has different causes could go some way toward explaining the sheer diversity of symptoms, which number up to 200. Close quote. This article from Vox brings up a fun thing called microblood clots, which are still being assessed by the medical world. What the lab-coated big brains have discovered is that these tiny-ass blood clots appear in some of the people infected with coronavirus, but not all. Is it a cause of long COVID or merely one of the many symptoms? What is the role of these clots? Where were these clots on that fateful November day in Dallas almost 60 years ago? Magic bullet or micro blood clots? What they do know is that patients who have had COVID tend to have a higher risk of heart attack and stroke for months after their infection. Regardless of how minor or severe their bout was, and the aforementioned researchers, I would assume, after fasting, careful prayer, and scripture study, have hypothesized that these micro blood clots could be the culprits, and probably painstaking research played a part too. To be fully transparent, the only science I'm sort of familiar with besides climatology is monster science. Electricity makes Frankensteins, and radiation is for kaijus. To quote the Vox article, most people may think of COVID-19 as a respiratory disease, but one of the key lessons of the past few years is the havoc the virus wreaks on a patient's cardiovascular system. Various studies have found people in the middle of an acute COVID-19 infection can experience injuries to their heart muscles, the kind that can portend a heart attack or pulmonary embolism, and studies have found that heart injury during an infection was associated with a higher risk of death than COVID itself. Close quote. The article continues to explain that you get three patient scenarios in regards to micro blood clots. One, you get those who develop clots during the infection and then they bounce back and return to their bleak gray lives in this capitalist hellscape with no further issues. Two, the people who have the persistent clots and symptoms that just gradually dissipate on their own after a few months. And three, the poor sods that get the short end of the corona and have micro blood clots spring up during their COVID infection. And then, like the scourge of fascism or plastic, the symptom and problems never go away. Boy, does it truly suck dry mummy wang for that third group. Right now, there's no clear data on the function or role of micro blood clots as they relate to long COVID. Until something concrete is discovered, they'll just be another generically shaped puzzle piece that looks like it's a bit of sky or sky reflected in the ocean. One of 10,000, and you're not entirely sure if it even goes to this fucking puzzle or if it got mixed in from one of the other ones you purchased online during lockdown. A Politico reported that new research published in Nature Medicine on August 31st, 2023, states that the brain fog associated with long COVID could be caused by these blood clots. Data was collected from over 1,800 adults who were hospitalized with COVID-19. Researchers found increased levels of two proteins, fibrinogen and D-dimer, during the patient's COVID-19 infections. These proteins get up to all kinds of blood clotting activity. Let me tell you, just clotting blood like a couple of blood clotting clots. Some of you may be asking, oh, what other awful crud can you tell us about long COVID, Mr. Smith? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Organ damage. As explained by this article from the Royal Society of Medicine over in England, a land where streams and rivers of hot tea flow freely. Crumpets are an acceptable form of currency, and intoxicated old ladies down at the pub sing bawdy songs about hedgehogs and how they differ greatly from other animals in one very specific fashion. That 59% of patients quoted in the headline here also included people who had a seemingly mild case of the vid at the time they were first diagnosed. The study focused on 536 long COVID patients who reported intense breathlessness, cognitive dysfunction, and a diminished quality of life due to poor health. Of those 536 taking part in the study, 13% had to be admitted to the hospital where they were initially diagnosed with COVID-19. 32% of participants were healthcare workers. Well, how common is long COVID these days? Well, the experts have a fairly good idea, but nothing concrete. Long COVID, as we have covered, has a metric fuck ton of symptoms, and studies have to rely heavily on patients to convey what they're experiencing. And right there, you're going to run into a lot of variation. But let's start with the global numbers. This article from March 11th, 2023, from the medical journal The Lancet had this to say. At least 65 million people are estimated to struggle with long COVID, and long COVID is estimated to occur in 10 to 20% of cases, including children, with most cases occurring in patients with mild acute illness. Close quote. Well, pulling back now, the Vox article referenced in the UK meta-analysis of 10 studies that have been conducted across the pond and posted that shit to Nature. Because the 10 UK studies they explored did not have the exact same parameters for long COVID, they boiled it down, because Brits boil every goddamn thing, to symptoms that stuck around after 12 weeks from the initial infection. To quote the Vox article, even experts who believe long COVID is quite prevalent can give wide ranges, anywhere from 10 to 30% of patients. The UK meta-analysis found that between 8 and 17% of patients said they still had symptoms 12 weeks after their initial infection. Between 1 and 5% said they were experiencing debilitating symptoms. Women, people who were older, and people who were in worse health prior to the pandemic were more likely to say they were experiencing long COVID. That study still left plenty of uncertainty about exactly how common the syndrome actually is. The top end of the range would be twice the rate of the low end. Close quote. So, that's the UK. But what about over here in the States? Well, to answer that, let's take a look at this article from January 26, 2023, from the Kaiser Family Foundation, and this helpful graph. For a little context and background, the data represented in this graph is from the Pulse survey by the Census Bureau and National Center of Health Statistics. Everyone they hit up was asked if they had COVID symptoms that lasted more than 3 months. They gathered this data in June, August, and October of 2022, and again on January 16, 2023. Let's blow this graph up full screen with Amerah's digital editing magics, and then we'll chat about it, because most of you are probably watching this on your phones. We could sit in uncomfortable silence for like 45 seconds while you all try and read it, but that'd be excruciating, especially for those with ADHD or cracked screens. Alright, so let's look at the dark blue. That represents people who had the vid and reported that they were still struggling with long COVID symptoms at the time of the survey. That shit dropped from 19% in June 2022 to 11% in January 2023. So that's cool. The KFF article adds, quote, despite the decline, the rate of long COVID among people who had COVID remains high. It is in line with other research and federal reports, but higher than some other studies have found. As of January 16, 2023, 15% of all adults in the U.S. reported having had long COVID symptoms at some point, and 6% reported current symptoms. Close quote. Now, the light blue is for people who had ever had long COVID but didn't currently have any symptoms at the time they were surveyed. Of those, 11% are currently experiencing long COVID, but an additional 17% had long COVID in the past and no longer reporting symptoms. Those numbers suggested that more people have recovered from long COVID than currently report symptoms. That finding is similar to a study of Israel, which found that most symptoms of long COVID resolved within a year, although that study was limited to people with mild illness. The Census Bureau and National Center of Health Statistics did another pulse survey and asked the folks who were still dealing with long COVID if it limits their daily activities, and 79% of them said, yeah. From the 79% experiencing activity limitations, 27% said it was significantly impacting their activity levels. As with any poll or survey, there's no way to guarantee absolute accuracy. You can't track everybody.
Maybe you can't.
I'm going to ignore that. Continuing on. Has there been any progress with treating long COVID? Some, but there's no silver bullet or stake to take this monster down yet. CNBC reported on July 31st, 2023, that the National Institutes of Health launched mid-stage clinical trials to test at least 4 treatments, including Pfizer's sexy pharmaceutical star Paxlovid that we've all been hearing about for the last couple of years. They're hoping to find some potential therapies for long COVID, as there is currently no proven treatment for the condition. At this point, we're just finding ways to treat and lessen the symptoms of long COVID to make life more bearable for the afflicted. All right, well, let's check in with our intrepid, future-hopping news correspondent, Jasmine Faye.
Hi, Nicholas.
Hey, buddy. How you holding up since Jimmy? I know you two were pretty tight.
Yeah, I'm taking it day by day, one step at a time. But I sleep well at night knowing I binged him. That Skotard didn't know who the fuck he was messing with.
Yeah, you John Wicked's bioengineered butt pretty hard.
Damn right.
How's the new camera guy working out?
You gonna ask me that when Skippy's right here putting me in an awkward position? God damn it, Nicholas.
Sorry, Skippy?
I'm just messing with you. Skippy's just a camera drone. The studio sent him to me. He runs off of AI pirated software. That's right. So he kind of has a little bit of quirks, but it works.
So what's the pandemic scene like in, whatever time you're in?
2041, because we got every damn thing. COVID is still around, obviously. Plus...
Jasmine, it is time for your 315 COVID-27 treatment.
Sorry, I programmed this little fella to tell me every time I need to take my treatments and my vaccines. So, where were we?
Wow, COVID-27 now?
COVID-33, which reminds me, I was about to tell you about...
Jasmine, it is time for your 316 COVID-33 treatment.
Time for my COVID-33 treatment. All right.
Good night.
Hey, you know what, Skippy? How about instead of interrupting my ass every 30 seconds, we just get all the treatments and vaccines done at once? All right? Okay.
Night. Yes, citrus fruits aren't available anymore?
Only the elite can afford the real shit.
And the THC, does that bind better with vitamin C or something?
Just makes life a little more bearable. Mammoth herpes vaccine. It ain't nothing to fuck with. Gives you blisters the size of golf balls. Yeah, we got these from the UN relief drop zone. We got pills here for Ebola, monkeypox, bird flu, swine flu, leopard fever, encephalitis. That's the worst of them all. And diagonorrhea.
Diagonorrhea? What's that like?
You know the Carolina Reaper hot peppers?
Yeah?
Like that, except for liquefied coming out of all your dainty holes.
Where is all this coming from?
All this shit coming up out the melted permafrost from where all these animals are leaving their wrecked habitats and coming in contact with people. Fungal infections are off the chart and resistant to almost everything except for stuff that would kill off the host first, and most of these viruses have reached antibiotic resistance. Oh, in biological weapons. That's where we got the diagonorrhea.
Did U.S. military scientists make that?
You think so, but no. Iceland. Wild, right?
No! Peaceful old Iceland?
Hey, shit is nasty out here, Nicholas. Literal hellscape. Whole world's gone feral and everyone's just trying to do what they need to do to survive.
What's happening?
Oh, we gotta go. Flesh-eating crickets.
Bioweapon?
Food scarcity. Now, they're on the bigger prey. All right, Skippy, lead me to the bunker. Bye, Nicholas.
Goodbye. Stay safe. Whatever the studio is paying her ain't enough, let me tell you. So, with how brilliantly we handled the COVID-19 situation, that is still quietly raging like a mime barbarian on PCP at a metal festival, I have a bit of worry in my gut for the next Hellforge plague to hit the global scene. So, we don't know when another pandemic will be unleashed, but scientists know it's inevitable. Check out this jolly, fun-filled, and informative article from The Guardian, dated April 28th, 2022. Look at that, our old pal climate change accelerated to a terrifying level by corporate fuckery is not only cranking up the frequency and intensity of every weather-driven natural disaster, but also helping to spread disease. Hot dog! What a time to be alive. Let's see what the article has to say about that research paper published in Nature last year. To quote, There will be at least 15,000 instances of viruses leaping between species over the next 50 years. Wow. Just straight out of the gate with that. No hesitation. 0 to 60 immediately. Good thing there's more. As the planet heats up, many animal species will be forced to move into new areas to find suitable conditions. They will bring their parasites and pathogens with them, causing them to spread between species that haven't interacted before. This will heighten the risk of what is called zoonotic spillover, where viruses transfer from animals to people, potentially triggering another pandemic of the magnitude of COVID-19. Zoonotic spillover. That sounds like code for terrible sexual acts with exotic animals. Yeah, things got pretty crazy at the orgy last weekend when Phil brought in the Impala and the bonobos and started passing out Molly and Blue Chews. Let's just say there was some zoonotic spillover that night, you know what I mean? The article also brings up the sobering fact that there are at least 10,000 of those initially stated 15,000 viruses that are nonchalantly making the rounds in wild animal populations that are capable of infecting us humans. So, thanks in part to vast swaths of natural habitats being destroyed and converted for agriculture and people shit like buildings and roads, wild animals are mingling with us more and more, and that means increased chances for crossover infections. And also climate change. I quote now, "Climate change is exacerbating this problem by helping circulate disease between species that previously did not encounter each other. The study forecasts the geographic range shifts of 3,139 mammal species due to climate and land use changes until 2070, and found that even under a relatively low level of global heating, there will be at least 15,000 cross-species transmission events of one or more viruses during this time." You may be wondering if there's a particular animal that's going to be one of the major players in all this disease spreading, and if you guessed bats, you are correct. Good job. According to previous research, it's estimated that bats are flying around with more than 3,200 strains of coronavirus, just itching to help society crumble. Right now, we have a strain of avian flu, H5N1, that has not only been infecting and killing birds, over 200 million wiped out so far, but has jumped the species fence into the mammal realm. We're talking minks, seals, dolphins, grizzly bears, otters, and foxes, to name a few, that have been found with H5N1. Another source of concern for potential future pandemics comes from our rapidly melting permafrost. This summer was warmer than a Balrog's taint, and it went down in human history as the hottest one in recorded human history. Summer, not taint. It's amazing what you can accomplish with El Nino and unchecked corporate greed. Permafrost, for those not in the know, is frozen ground made up of soil, gravel, sand, sediment, rock, all bound together by ice. You find it in polar regions. To qualify as permafrost, it must meet the challenge of remaining frozen solid for at least 2 years, or it can sod off. Sometimes it just goes down a few feet, or, in the case of the Arctic tundra, can extend a mile down into the surface of the Earth. Because it provides a cold environment that's oxygen-free, where light cannot penetrate, permafrost can contain and preserve all kinds of shit, like the carcasses of mastodons and woolly mammoths, old copies of E.T. the Extraterrestrial for the Atari 2600, and bacteria and viruses held in stasis for thousands of years. With the faster-than-expected melting of glaciers, ice sheets, and sea ice, permafrost has also been thawing out, and over the years, scientists have found zombie viruses. Basically a virus that has been inactive in the frozen ground, that was successfully revived in a laboratory setting and found to still be kicking, so to speak. This CNN article showcases the work by Jean-Michel Clevery and his years of work with zombie viruses. Fortunately, this man has used wisdom and restraint and has only been working with viruses that target single-celled amoebas, not humans or animals. These viruses Claverie has been working with have been dated to be around 27,000 years old to 48,500 years old. To quote the article, that amoeba infecting viruses are still infectious after so long is indicative of a potentially bigger problem, Clavier said. He fears people regard his research as a scientific curiosity and don't perceive the prospect of ancient viruses coming back to life as a serious public health threat. We view these amoeba-infecting viruses as surrogates for all other possible viruses that might be in the permafrost, he told CNN. We see the traces of many other viruses, he added, so we don't know they are there. We don't know for sure that they are still alive, but our reasoning is that if the amoeba viruses are still alive, there's no reason why the other viruses will not be still alive and capable of infecting their own hosts. Now, we know these viruses seem to thrive in the laboratory, but what about the wild ones that could be spilling out of the melting permafrost like my mighty boobs from the top of my black vinyl corset, huh? From the CNN article. Of course, in the real world, scientists don't know how long these viruses could remain infectious once exposed to present-day conditions, or how likely the virus would be to encounter a suitable host. Not all viruses are pathogens that can cause diseases. Some are benign or even beneficial to their hosts, and while it's home to 3.6 million people, the Arctic is still a sparsely populated place, making the risk of human exposure to ancient viruses very low. Still, the risk is bound to increase in the context of global warming, Claverie said, in which permafrost thawing will keep accelerating and more people will populate the Arctic in the wake of industrial ventures. Clavier isn't alone in warning that the region could become a fertile ground for a spillover event when a virus jumps into a new host and starts to spread. Now, I have no idea what we'll do if we're hit with another devastating global pandemic. We limped our way through COVID-19, and eventually it seemed the decision was made to ignore it and go about our lives making money for the capitalist overlords. So, whatever happens, let's hope it's not diagonorrhea. And that's our show. If you want, like, comment, and or subscribe. You can find source links in the description. Bye!